Today I'm bringing you some beat the breakout must-stash type players to add to the end of your bench so that you don't have to fight your friends on waivers on Monday or Tuesday. And these guys should all be rostered. We're talking about J.K. Dobbins and Kamani Vidal, the two backup running backs for the Chargers. These guys have to be stashed because this offense with Greg Roman's absolutely going to love running the ball. And so you need to get on these guys, make sure that they're not rostered, because right now they are kind of sitting in that like 35 to 50% rostership over on sleepers. So I didn't feel like I could absolutely include them, but I do think both these guys are valuable. The next guy is going to be a Josh Palmer, who is the true X on this Chargers offense. They're going to have to throw the ball sometime. Even if they are the 30th percentile throwing the ball team in the NFL, Josh Palmer is going to still return on some value. So if you have the chance to go get Josh Palmer, I would. The next guy is going to be Khalil Shakir. And I've been in a few leagues where Khalil Shakir has recently been dropped. I'm not a big Khalil Shakir guy. If you tell me I want Curtis Samuel, I want Keon Coleman over Khalil Shakir. I'm not starting Khalil Shakir even this week. And I know there's a chance, though, that he is the one. There is a chance because we don't know who the one is going to be in this offense. And so, like I said, if none of these other guys that I talk about later, I would take Khalil Shakir over all these guys. But I do like some Khalil Shakir in your lineup. Michael Wilson is the next guy. Michael Wilson Jr. for the Arizona Cardinals is the number 2 wide receiver. Zay Jones got suspended for the first 5 games of the season. So Michael Wilson going into year 2 out of the University of Stanford as a 3rd round pick last year was someone that always was making these stash videos because Michael Wilson Jr. is absolutely electric. So I do want you to take into consideration that Michael Wilson Jr. could be a good pickup for you. Jaleel McLaughlin's the next guy. He's going to be the change of pace 3rd down running back for the Sean Payton level offense for the Broncos, which we don't think is going to be very good. But the thing that we do know with the Broncos and with Sean Payton is that they'd like to do a running back by committee. So Jaleel McLaughlin, even though we like some Javonte Williams, especially this week, we have Javonte Williams ranked pretty high. Jaleel McLaughlin did have his ways to shine, looked a little bit Devon-esque, super explosive, has the juice like some Jaleel McLaughlin. And the final guy that needs to be rostered before we get to the actual stashes is going to be Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason is the number 2 running back for the San Francisco 49ers. And of course, CMC is battling this calf strain. And I'm a little bit concerned about it, not going to lie, as we kind of approach the season. And so not to say that Jordan Mason, if something were to happen to CMC where he isn't able to play, Jordan Mason's not going to slide into my RB1 overall spot and I'm going to feel great about it. But I think Jordan Mason's going to be a super solid RB2 to back end RB1 that if he's out there right now, you definitely need to be checking your waiver wires to see if you can stash. But starting it off with player number 1, it's going to be Jaylen Wright for the Miami Dolphins. And right now over on Sleeper, Jaylen Wright is stashed in about 47% of leagues. So as of this recording, there's a 1 out of 2 chance that this guy's here. And you 100% need to be going and getting some Jaylen Wright out of the University of Tennessee. Now he gets drafted in the 4th round to the Miami Dolphins, who already have Raheem Mostert and already have Devon. So you're going to be saying to me, Caleb, well, why are you stashing him? It's because he has a 4.38 40-yard dash time, a 95th percentile speed score with 114 and a 95th percentile burst score 131. So he is built in the same mold as Raheem Mostert and as Devon. And as the University of Tennessee last year, dude was able to rush for 1,000 yards and 4 total touchdowns. And like we said, we really have seen Raheem Mostert's career do a whole lot of good with Mike McDaniel. We saw Devon do a whole lot of good with Mike McDaniel. And so I think those guys are clearly the top 2. But last year, we did not see either of them be able to perform for the whole season. They got injured. So there's a chance that Jaylen Wright, if he were to be even sliding to that RB2 spot, he's going to be super valuable for fantasy football. So you definitely got to make sure that he is stashed. He's the number 1 stash if all the other guys are not available. I am 100% stashing Jaylen Wright. And you might be able to convince me on like Jaylen Wright or Kamani Vidal. I might be able to say, if I'm thinking about it, honestly, going with Jaylen Wright. The next guy is going to be Audric Estime, 5th round drafted running back out of the University of Notre Dame. And this dude's an absolute plotter. He's not electric, but he can run in between the tackles really well. Not really great with receptions. So if this is like a PPR format, Audric Estime might not be the best guy, but the same exact reason that I love Jaleel McLaughlin for the upside of the Sean Payton committee offense is the same reason I love a guy like Audric Estime, who this offense is not going to be good. We all know that this offense for the Denver Broncos is probably going to be a bottom 5, bottom 4 offense, unless Bo Nix turns into freaking CJ Stroud. So I do want enough shares of a guy like Audric Estime, but this is like a super deep sleeper because he does have like a 9% rostership. So like I said, if you want to take a shot on a guy like a Jaylen Wright first, I 100% would, because I would rather have Jaylen Wright over Audric Estime, but I do think Audric Estime as a stash is going to be super valuable. The next guy that I would be stashing is going to be Darnell Mooney for the Atlanta Falcons. And the reason that I want to stash some Darnell Mooney in this offense is because we have seen Kirk Cousins wide receiver 2s produce in previous years. Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne, just to name 2 names. Now, you're going to say, well, Caleb, there's Kyle Pitts in this scenario too. Well, let's also forget Jordan Addison produced boost while TJ Hawkinson was also in the offense. So I think all these guys are going to be able to eat depending on how efficient this Atlanta Falcons offense is. How healthy is Kirk Cousins with the Achilles tear? I don't care though, because Michael Penix Jr. as a backup quarterback makes me super excited for this offense. So Darnell Mooney is a guy that I'm taking a late round shot on, especially if I have weaker wide receivers. Let's say I went double, triple, robust RB, and you need some late round shots on a guy like a Darnell Mooney. I do think this offense can definitely provide some level of value as a stash. My next stash is going to be Jalen Polk for the New England Patriots. And we've talked about this offense and how bad, similar to the Broncos, I think the New England Patriots offense is going to be really bad with Jacoby Brissett or whenever they end up bringing in Drake May. Now, they do not have a clear wide receiver one. I mean, Kendrick Bourne is coming off an injury. They let go of Juju Smith-Schuster. So I think Jalen Polk is a perfect stash that you need to be adding to your roster, because I think Jalen Polk has the juice. I think Jalen Polk has the upside. Third round drafted wide receiver out of Washington University, getting all the buzz in camp. So there's a chance that Jalen Polk isn't out there on your waivers, but he is only owned in 43% of sleeper leagues. So there is a good shot that he could potentially be out there on the waivers for you. The next guy we're going to be talking about is Pop Douglas, and Pop Douglas has even less ownership out on sleeper leagues. And I was all aboard the Pop Douglas train last year. Demario Douglas, he was out of the University of Liberty. This is him going into year 2. He was a 6th round drafted wide receiver. I called him Target AB because he reminded me a lot of Antonio Brown. Super electric, super fast, a little bit undersized. So if we're talking about a deeper level stash, Pop Douglas is 100% going to be it on the wide receiver front. We continue on down the stash list, and this is really in no order to like importance. So if you have any waiver wire questions, if you have any start sit questions, hit me up down below. My next guy, like we said, is going to be Bucky Irving, who right now is rostered in 27% of leagues, and he is the clear number 2 in this Tampa Bay Buccaneers backfield. Todd Bowles talked a little bit about how they're both going to be getting run. Both Bucky Irving and Rachaad White are going to be getting run, and I think that's super excited for Bucky Irving, because not that I think Rachaad White is less talented or more talented. Like, I think he's more talented than Bucky Irving, clearly, but I do think they drafted Bucky Irving for a reason. And even if he does have some hyped up Darren Sproles third down bell cow type role, I do think that's going to be super exciting for Bucky Irving and having a ton of potential down the line in a season where we know running backs get injured a ton. The next guy we're going to be talking about is going to be Tyrone Tracy for the New York Giants. And we're looking at Tyrone Tracy, number 2 running back behind Devin Singletary. And listen, the Giants are hyping up Devin Singletary. Goodness gracious, they have to give the fan base something. They let Saquon Barkley walk off, and we just saw 3 tutties from Saquon Barkley. So I don't think Devin Singletary is anything more than a jag, just an average guy. And I don't think this offense is going to be good enough to be able to support an elite level running back or even like an RB2. So I think they're going to need somebody back there with a little bit of juice. And I think Tyrone Tracy might be able to provide that. So I'm taking every shot on a guy like Tyrone Tracy that I can. Like I said, he falls below that 50% threshold on sleeper leagues on the waiver wire. So I want to present Tyrone Tracy to you as a must-stash guy. Like I said, if I'd rather have more Jordan Mason, Jaleel McLaughlin, Kamani Vidal, J.K. Dobbins, etc. But I do think Tyrone Tracy, if you're playing in a little bit of a deeper league, you need a better stash, is definitely a dude. The next guy is going to be Josh Downs. And this potentially could be, I should have maybe added to the players that should already be rostered. But Josh Downs coming off that injury, we're a little bit worried. A lot of people are hyping up Adonai Mitchell, AD Mitchell for the Colts, who was a 2nd round wide receiver drafted out of the University of Texas. And while that is fine and dandy, Josh Downs did produce wide receiver 50 points per game numbers last season, and he was getting the ball thrown to him by Gardner Minshew. Imagine a more efficient offense with Jonathan Taylor, with Anthony Richardson, with Michael Pittman Jr. all humming. That makes me excited for a guy like Josh Downs to kind of slide into that number 2 role that a lot of people are just assuming that he's going to be the 3. So I do like some Josh Downs as well as a stash. So definitely go check out some Josh Downs. And the final player we're going to be talking about as a stash candidate is going to be Mr. Ben Sinnott out of Washington Commanders, out of the University of Kansas State. Last year was the clear one for Will Howard at Kansas State. Gets drafted in the 2nd round, and we liked him as the best pass catching tight end. We had Danny over from Fantasy Football Stock Exchange on the channel earlier in March, and he was absolutely hyping up Ben Sinnott. Ben Sinnott gets that 2nd round draft capital. And while last year we saw guys like Sam Laporta, Dalton Kincaid absolutely emerge as tight ends in the rookie level years, that typically hasn't been the case. In previous years, you've had to wait 2, 3, 4 years for any type of fantasy football production. But now, of course, same way that wide receivers, running backs, we want them to hit now. Tight ends are starting to kind of get pushed into that conversation. And so Ben Sinnott with rookie level quarterback Jaden Daniels, we'll have to see how this ends up working out for him, but he does have the pedigree. He is only rostered in about 20% of leagues. So if you maybe drafted someone like a Pat Fryermuth or any of the guys outside the elite like 7, even potentially Mark Andrews, I would be looking to go pick up some Ben Sinnott onto your roster. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'm answering every start sit question this year on the way to 3,000 subscribers. So appreciate you guys for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.